Brother. Now, last night's Big Brother highlights show was probably, I think, the best so far. It's certainly been hotly discussed on the forums. Is it improving night by night now when you have characters like Pamela and Sally going at it, and also people like Bobby finally stepping up? It looks like we're getting something now that's shaping into a classic.
There's a lot of last night's show. I think hands down was probably the best of the season so far. It was strange to see. Again, when you're dealing with 1 hour, there was just so much you could have pulled out of it with Jedward, especially. I think last night, if there was any night, it would have been their separation. I mean, there was only so much I'm sure they could get it down to, but that for me was certainly something I would have liked to have seen a lot more of. Again, the whole situation with Pamela and her... we call it an all... No, that's probably a bit much, but that's maybe her meal. We'll call it a meal for now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best word for it, but I suppose it was. And that whole situation with her and Sally. But I mean, there was a whole bunch of stuff we could go on and on about it. But I don't know if Pamela. Well, I think she did actually, to be honest with you, recognize the fact that Sally went a little bit too much with that. I mean, I don't think there was need for her to directly call her out and say that was disgusting. I think it was a little bit too much, I have to say.
It's shaping up to be a very interesting feud. Now, hopefully, Sally is going to stay, maybe. Do we want to get rid of Kerry Katona early? Maybe so, because it looks like Sally has so far provided more in the way of a dramatic moment. I was shocked, actually, when she was so quickly there to shoot on that meal that Pamela had cooked. She went straight at it and called it disgusting. I really did pause for a minute, because it made me think this is probably going on a lot. I think those two, obviously, in a sense, you don't have to be a psychologist to see it, but they're probably around the same age and possibly going for that mother of the house role, where you have two women who maybe kind of see themselves as being quite similar. Maybe they are that similar that they don't get on, and perhaps they will one day be friends if indeed Sally stays in. But unfortunately, I think maybe Sally could be gone. We'll talk about that in eviction predictions. Trademark Dermot O'Leary coming up on YouTube and also here on live stream. But that's one that could really slow burn if she's allowed to stay in. But I think whoever is in there with Pamela is going to be annoyed by her, is going to be a bit irked by her, because things like putting salad dressing on the meat and cooking the meat with the salad dressing, it's those little things, isn't it, that creates those almost trivial arguments. I mean, arguments that you just wouldn't expect to erupt in normal life, really.
Well, I think for Pamela being probably the oldest female in the house and falling into that motherly bracket, just like Sally, but unfortunately in a totally different, or coming from a totally different background, where I'm sure she is and has been for many years, not weighted on hand and foot, but I'm sure she doesn't do a whole lot when it comes to cooking and stuff like that. We're up against somebody like Sally, who who's comes from a background where her husband alone is in a controlling aspect of work, if you want to put it that way, and I'm sure that does take its toll on somebody like Sally. And when it comes to stepping into a house full of strangers and being trying to fit into the mother figure role that she's tried to take upon herself, of course they're going to conflict with each other. But I think poor Pamela, she's got her work cut out with Sally, unfortunately. I just couldn't believe how rude. I genuinely was shocked when she said that. I mean, you might think that, but you don't say it out loud,
Yeah, there's one or two of them in there. I think Jedward as well need discussing for some of the stuff they've been up to. Entertaining for sure. And of course, why would we really care what goes on as long as they're entertaining us? I mean, it's funny to see these little social things go on that, as you say, you wouldn't see this in normal life. I wouldn't expect someone to turn on them that quickly. But what's happened as they've existed and we haven't seen between Sally and, we'll say, Pamela, what's been the reason that's kind of had this go further? There must have been one or two incidents that, again, we haven't really seen them flagged on the highlight show, but something has led to what this is. Is it just them, or was there an incident that kind of became this focal point of this argument that I hope goes on at least tonight, and maybe we'll get some more of it on Friday, but she could be curtains after that, which is a big shame. Those two essentially could be one argument, but there are several other arguments developing. Of course, Bobby has turned it all around. It was so easy, wasn't it, when Bobby first arrived for that launch night, within about 3 seconds, and they do say 3 seconds you have your mind made up about someone, so say some of the psychologists on the show anyway, but when you saw him, I immediately, and maybe others did too, sort of write him off as the Wallflower. Oh, this is going to be the guy that's not going to do anything. I was guilty of that, and indeed I made my impressions known at some point when I was talking to you, and I have totally gone back on that now.
Yeah, I was the same. I think when he came out on the ramp with Brian Dowling on the first night, it was the token eye candy was the first, for the ladies of course, was the first thing that went through my head. And he did, remain quite silent over the first couple of days, and maybe for that fact that he was just a bit on the rogue side of things, but it was good to see him open up, and for the most part maybe it does just come back to a certain level of intelligence that he might be looking for in the house, and he's just not getting these fixed really, and he's finding it difficult and frustrating, and has to turn to the Big Brother audience, or the cameras if you will, to vent his anger.
It was absolutely hilarious to see him begin to explode. He's obviously the type of guy that kind of holds back what he thinks until he explodes himself, and has a chat, as he did, with himself, airing all those grievances over the night, even in the bed on his own. He was giving out about Kerry. He does remind me a bit of me, because I probably would do that as well. And it was the way he reacted as well to Kerry Katona and her apparent status, which he questions. You kind of have to take someone like a Kerry Katona as you see her, don't you? I mean, she says she has status. Just believe her and let her off, really. But
yeah, I'm going to be honest with this one and come clean. But we did a little bit of a trial show when we did the first video for this, and we never made it to YouTube. But I did kind of a heavy shoot on Kerry Katona, which I'm not going to do tonight because I don't think it's fair. But yeah, I suppose. Definitely a conflict of personalities, and I'm sure intelligence with Bobby and Kerry, and I'm sure that's why, well, I think obviously that's why he's finding it frustrating, as she has been, certainly his first target. It wouldn't be hard, I don't want to go on a shoot with her, but I can see where he's coming from. It wouldn't be too hard.
That's right. It was so out of the blue with him as well. Again, maybe these occurrences, like Sally totally turning around and just saying what a rubbish, disgusting meal that is to Pamela. Things like Bobby, I nearly called him Bob there, but when Bobby is more or less saying, I hate this person, can't stand her, what's this status thing about? There's got to have been other factors, I think, that have led to these people being annoyed with each other. And again, this is what we're not privy to. We will never really know a lot of the true interactions, a lot of the true goings on as to exactly why things are happening.